So what I want to hear from men whose feelings are hurt when they hear it's all men is, how can I make sure that there are fewer men? Hi, I'm Summer Tothill. Every week on my Instagram, I run a Q&A with my followers. What you're about to watch or listen to is a compilation of 1 week's worth of those questions and answers. Why do women get promoted less than men at my workplace? She goes on to say, we are being told it's because they don't go for promotion as much. This is a lie. As I have talked about many times with relation to the gender pay gap, the biggest driver of the gender pay gap is that endemic bias against women exists in the workplace. It is present in the hiring, recruitment, and promotions processes of workplaces. And this has been observed to be endemic in Australia, and I suspect it is the same across most westernized countries. Women are selected less in recruitment. They are given fewer opportunities for the kinds of training that they might need to advance. They are rejected more when they negotiate for higher pay in the recruiting process, and they are rejected for promotion more. Don't ever let anyone tell you that the reason the pay gap exists is because women just don't negotiate for higher pay or they just don't try to get opportunities. When women try to advocate for ourselves in the workplace, we are looked upon negatively. We are almost seen as like being insubordinate by being confident and believing in ourselves. So if you are noticing that women are not being promoted in your workplace, that would be consistent with what goes on across the entire Australian workforce. It is systemic and endemic, and you can learn more about it at the Workplace Gender Equality Agency. It is a huge part of the pay gap. Ignorant men in my comments love to say, well, the pay gap can't possibly be real because if women attracted lower pay, then organizations would just hire women because it would be cheaper. And of course, that isn't true, because what happens is industries become lower paid as they become more feminized. Like if you look at the lowest paid industries out there, they are all roles and industries that are more feminine. Not-for-profit orgs, nursing, childcare, teaching. I've made a lot of content about the pay gap over time. I have an entire stories highlight for it so you can learn more about it. But yeah, you're not crazy if you are observing that women are getting promoted less in your workplace. It is because even when women do go for promotions, they are more likely to be rejected for them. How does decolonial feminism interact with / respond to beauty standards and the beauty industry? Great question. My feeling for this is that it shouldn't. Basically, I think feminism of all kinds should reject the beauty industry and beauty standards. As I have talked about before, beauty can only ever be a white supremacist, racist, fatphobic, ableist tendency. And I've seen other creators make great content about this where they really go into the way that the standard of beauty can only ever be setting up a hierarchy. And because hierarchies of oppression already exist within our society that are based on race, class, wealth, all of that, beauty can never be decolonized. It can never be decapitalized, and it can never really be feminist. And I also think that beauty as a concept is ableist. Like I've actually started to become more radical in my views around beauty and have started to think that we might even need to start cracking a lot more down on whether it can be considered ableist to even present a certain type of face or body as something that you need to change. The example I'm thinking of is like cosmetic injectors such as Botox and filler injectors will show pictures of, say, a recent example was like a person with like a weak chin, or like Kim Kardashian with her chin photoshopped to be smaller and then showing her real chin, which presumably is the product maybe of some fillers, and saying this just looks inherently better. And I got to thinking about how that intersects with the idea of facial difference and disability. And like, if we're going to hold up a standard of a face as beautiful and another one as not beautiful, that is inherently ableist. It's ableist towards people with facial difference, but it's ableist and discriminating against the way that everybody has different physical features. So yeah, I think the bottom line of what I'm saying here is that the entire concept of beauty is ableist, And so the way to interact with it as a feminist, particularly if you're going to be an intersectional and decolonial feminist, is to reject it entirely. I will never be silent about gender equality and oppression, but will it cost me romantic love? I'm sure this is a very common concern, and I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Love isn't love that expects you to participate in your own dehumanization. Romantic love, and love of any kind, is a verb. No matter how much people act like and assume that it is a feeling, love is what you do. Love is how you act. Love is how you treat someone. If you treat them with love, kindness, generosity, good faith, respect, that is love. But if you enter into something that is calling itself romantic love, but where it requires you to be silent about the ways that the world systemically disenfranchises you, if it requires you to coddle the other person's feelings about how they may be complicit in it, if it requires you to sell out whoever may be oppressed in your community, how can that be love? And what could you possibly want from that? Being a vocal feminist will certainly cost you the attention of some men who aren't worth your time. It will cost you the attention of men who would drain your resources, who would disempower you, and who you would compromise your self-worth for. And in the end, what are you going to get from romantic love if it isn't the partnership of someone who improves your life, expands your world, and is ready to participate in the joint project of smashing inequality with you? How do you respond to men who object to it's all men because of their hurt feelings? Okay, I have actually got tons of content on this. It's all in a story highlight on my Instagram that is entitled Not All Men. It has a bunch of different things. Some of it is women providing responses to the not all men. Because frankly, when men say that, hearing like it's all men hurts their feelings, what they're effectively saying is it's not all men. The other thing is you have to remember that it is all men because all men benefit from patriarchy, even if not all men commit sexual assault or not all men have oppressed a woman in the workplace. The reality is they all have done something towards gender inequality, towards microaggressions every day that contribute to systemic misogyny, and they all have benefited from systemic patriarchy, okay? So what I want to hear from men whose feelings are hurt when they hear it's all men is, how can I make sure that there are fewer men? Like, if it hurts men's feelings to hear that we are so afraid to meet a man alone in the woods that we would prefer to meet a bear, all I want to hear from men is, how can I change men's behavior so that that is not so? If all they're going to say is, this hurts my feelings and it's about me, as I recently saw on TikTok from a man who I actually assumed was a feminist, and it turns out he still can't help centering his hurt feelings in this. If all they're going to do is center themselves, I actually don't care if their feelings are hurt. But if you do actually have a relationship with someone whose feelings are hurt and you want to help him understand how to deal with that, tell him that it's his responsibility to ensure that the behavior of other men doesn't create a scenario where women can't tell which men it is and which men it isn't. That's it for this Q&A. Thank you so much for listening. Find me on Instagram at summertothill. That's summer with an O, spelt the same way as you see in this YouTube channel. I can't wait to see you there.